Chapter 1. The Day I Met My Shadow. The first thing I noticed was the quiet. Not the peaceful kind, but the kind that presses against your ears, making you aware of your own breathing. No hum of traffic outside, no footsteps down the hallway, no voices. Just me and the faint drip of a faucet that hadn't been tightened all the way. I stood in a bathroom I'd been in 100 times before, but today it felt different. Smaller, heavier. The air smelled faintly of soap and tile cleaner, the kind of sterile scent that pretends to be clean but can't wash away what's in your head. The mirror above the sink was spotless. Too spotless. I could see every detail, the tired slump of my shoulders, the half-moons under my eyes, the way my jaw tensed even when I wasn't speaking. I gripped the edges of the sink like it might hold me up if the truth came crashing down. I wasn't sure how long I'd been standing there, seconds, minutes, maybe longer. All I knew was that something in me was different. The moment felt staged almost, like life had been slowly arranging the props and lighting for months, maybe years, waiting for me to finally walk into this exact scene. I didn't come in here looking for answers. I came in here to wash my hands, but the mirror had other plans. At first, I tried to look at myself the way you do before leaving the house, quick, surface level, checking for anything out of place. But the longer I looked, the more it felt like the mirror wasn't just reflecting me, it was studying me. And that's when it started. A flicker. Not in the glass, but in me. Like something shifting behind my eyes. It wasn't the first time I'd felt that flicker. I was 9, the first time I realized my face could betray me. My uncle was yelling in the living room, one of those full-throated storms where every word came out like a slammed door. I was sitting at the kitchen table with a bowl of cereal that had gone soggy, pretending to read the back of the box. I remember keeping my head down, not because I didn't care, but because I knew if I looked up, he'd see the fear in my eyes. And once he saw it, he'd own it. That's when I learned how to keep my face still, how to pull the shutters closed so no one could see inside, how to survive by becoming unreadable. It worked. For years, it worked. But standing here now in this quiet bathroom, I could feel those old shutters trembling. I turned on the faucet, letting the water run hot. Steam curled upward, softening the edges of the mirror. I almost welcomed it, glad for the chance to blur my reflection. But then the steam thinned, and there I was again, clearer than before. The flicker grew stronger. It felt like the mirror wasn't just showing me my face. It was showing me the weight behind it, the kind of weight you can carry so long you forget it's there, until one day you set it down and your whole body shakes. I took a breath. My chest felt tight. And then it came, uninvited, like a slide projector in my mind. I was 16, sitting in the passenger seat of a girl's car. She was crying, soft at first, then louder, the kind of crying that makes you want to fix it and run away at the same time. I'd promised her I wasn't like the others, that I'd never ghost her, that I'd never use her trust as currency. But that night, I broke it all in a single text. I can't do this anymore. I didn't wait for her reply. I turned off my phone and stared out the window as she drove me home in silence. Her hands were white-knuckled on the steering wheel. When she dropped me off, I didn't even say goodbye. I told myself it was because I was protecting her from me. But the truth? I couldn't stand to see her cry for too long because it reminded me of someone else's tears, ones I'd never been able to stop. The mirror in front of me now felt like it knew that story, like it had been there, like it had been collecting every lie I'd told myself, waiting for the right moment to play them back. I splashed warm water on my face, hoping the sensation would break whatever spell I was under. But when I looked up again, I swear the person in the mirror wasn't quite me. The eyes were mine, but older somehow, tired in a way I didn't want to admit. The jaw was mine, but clenched like it was holding back words that had been waiting years to be said. The room felt warmer. My grip on the sink tightened. In my 20s, I got good at being whoever people needed me to be. At work, I was the reliable one. With friends, I was the funny one. In relationships, I was the safe one who didn't make too many demands. It was a mask I wore so well, sometimes even I forgot it was there. Until I got home. Behind closed doors, the mask came off, and the silence hit me like a weight. I'd sit in the dark scrolling through my phone, not looking for anything in particular, just trying to fill the space. I told myself it was normal, that everyone did it. But deep down, I knew it was just another way of avoiding the mirror. Now here I was, avoiding nothing. The mirror didn't blink. It didn't look away. It just waited. And for the first time, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Not anger, not sadness, but recognition. I was looking at someone I'd spent a lifetime running from. My shadow. The faucet was still running, but I didn't hear it anymore. All I could hear was my own heartbeat, loud and steady, like it was knocking from the inside, asking to be let out. I leaned in closer until my breath fogged the glass. And in that fog, for a moment, I thought I saw movement, like someone standing just behind me. But when I blinked, it was gone. Still, the feeling stayed. It was like standing on the edge of a confession you're not ready to make, knowing that once you say it out loud, there's no going back. The faucet was still running, but the sound had faded into the background like a song on repeat that you've stopped noticing. I leaned on the sink, my arms locked, as if I were holding myself in place. My reflection stared back, unblinking. Something about the stillness in my face didn't match the pounding in my chest. I could feel it, that low, restless hum of truth pressing against the edges of a life I had built to keep it quiet. It was strange, standing in a safe place, yet feeling hunted. Not by someone else, but by me. I was 12 when I learned you could leave a room without moving an inch. It was during one of my mother's silent spells, the kind where she wasn't mad enough to yell, but mad enough to make sure you felt it in every glance, every movement. I remember sitting on the couch pretending to watch TV. My body was there, but my mind had slipped out the back door, down the alley, somewhere far enough that her silence couldn't touch me. I got so good at it over the years that I could vanish in the middle of a conversation. Someone could be sitting across from me, talking, laughing, crying, and I'd be gone. No one noticed, because my body was still in the chair. My eyes were still pointed in their direction, but I was already miles away. It wasn't until much later that I realized disappearing was my way of surviving moments I didn't know how to face. In the mirror now, I saw the grown-up version of that disappearing boy, only this time there was nowhere left to vanish to. The walls were closing in. I looked away, but my reflection followed me in the glass of the shower door. Same eyes, same weight, no escape. I was 19 and had a friend who trusted me with everything. He told me things he hadn't told his own family. He thought I was the one person who would never use his pain against him. But one night, in a fit of frustration, I repeated something he'd told me, a secret that wasn't mine to share. I didn't mean for it to be cruel. I told myself it just slipped out. The next time I saw him, his eyes were different, still warm but guarded now, like I had confirmed something he'd always feared, that people eventually betray you. I told myself it was a small mistake, that he'd get over it, but deep down I knew I'd left a mark that couldn't be undone. The mirror seemed to know that story too, and the stories after it. It felt like it had been storing them all in some hidden ledger, and now it was reading the charges back to me. My chest tightened. My jaw ached. I realized my hands were gripping the edge of the sink so hard that my knuckles were pale. I wanted to look away again, but something in me wouldn't let me. That's when I noticed it, a slight shift in the weight of the air around me. Not wind, not movement, just a presence. I can't explain it any other way. It was like standing in a room you thought was empty and realizing someone else had been there the whole time. In my mid-20s, I started getting compliments I didn't know what to do with. People called me strong, resilient, an inspiration. They saw someone who had been through hell and come out the other side, and I let them. I nodded, smiled, even gave them little sound bites about pushing through and staying positive. I knew how to perform survival. I knew the lines. I knew the cues. But they never saw the nights I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling, feeling like I'd conned the whole world into thinking I was okay. They didn't hear the thoughts that crawled into my head after midnight, whispering things I'd never repeat out loud. Strength had become my costume, and I wore it so well I forgot what my real face looked like underneath. Now, in the mirror, I could feel that costume tearing at the seams, and the person underneath, the one I'd hidden for so long, was looking back at me. I closed my eyes, hoping it would break the moment, but the second I did, more memories flooded in, not the kind you choose to remember, but the kind that ambush you when you're too tired to defend yourself. I was 23, sitting in a kitchen with someone I loved. They asked me point blank if I was okay. I could have told them everything, the thoughts, the fears, the shame, but instead, I laughed and said, I was fine. It was easier, safer. They smiled, relieved, and we moved on to lighter topics. But I remember feeling this hollow ache in my chest, not because they didn't care, but because I'd just proven to myself that I couldn't trust anyone with my real self. The mirror seemed to lean closer. My own eyes looked like they were asking me, "Are you going to keep doing that?" I opened my eyes fully and met my reflection again, and that's when I realized something. The shadow wasn't hiding in the corners or waiting in the dark. It was right here, in plain sight. It was in the way my shoulders curled forward, the way my mouth set in a tight line, the way I avoided my own gaze until today. It wasn't a monster lurking somewhere out there. It was me, every unspoken fear, every swallowed truth, every wound I never let heal. The air in the room felt heavier, like gravity had doubled. My breathing slowed. My hands loosened on the sink, not out of relief, but out of surrender. I wasn't running anymore. I thought about leaving the bathroom, walking out, finding something to do, dishes, laundry, anything to break the spell. But my feet stayed planted. It felt like if I walked away now, I'd lose the only chance I had to face this part of myself before it buried itself again. The shadow didn't move. It didn't speak, but it didn't have to. I knew what it was saying, and for the first time, I didn't look away. I don't remember deciding to lean closer to the mirror, but suddenly my face was inches from the glass. My breath fogged the surface in short bursts. For a moment, my reflection blurred. For a moment, I was free from the stare. Then the fog thinned, and there I was again. The same eyes, the same jaw, but not the same man. This wasn't the version of me I'd built for public consumption. The one who smiled in photos, cracked jokes when the air got heavy, and said, "I'm good," without hesitation. This was the me I tried to bury under layers of distraction and achievement. The me who stayed awake at night replaying mistakes until the sun came up. The me who knew exactly when and where I had crossed the line from surviving to hiding. It was all here, written on my face. I was 26 when a friend called me in the middle of the night. His voice was unsteady. He didn't say it, but I knew, the way you just know, that he was close to the edge. "I'm here," I told him. "I'm not going anywhere." But 2 weeks later, I stopped answering his calls. Life got busy. My own storms demanded attention, and in the back of my mind, I told myself someone else would pick up the phone. They didn't. He survived, but barely. We haven't spoken since. I've replayed that night in my head more times than I can count, telling myself there was nothing I could have done. But deep down, I knew the truth. I'd abandoned him the same way I'd been abandoned. Now, in the bathroom, that memory burned hot in my chest. My reflection didn't let me look away. I could feel the shame rise in my throat like a bitter taste. The room felt smaller, the walls closer, my heartbeat louder. I was back in every room I'd ever avoided, every conversation I'd ended too soon, every moment where telling the truth would have meant stepping into the light, and I'd chosen the shadow instead. At 28, I told someone I was fine so many times that it became my default answer, even when I wasn't fine, even when I was falling apart. The lie got easier. It saved me from questions. It kept the peace. It allowed me to maintain the version of myself that looked strong from the outside. But every lie like that has a cost. You start to believe it. You start to think that pretending is the same as healing. You start to forget that strength and avoidance are not the same thing. The shadow in the mirror didn't flinch at any of this. And suddenly I understood. It had been here all along. It wasn't a visitor. It wasn't a stranger. It had been my silent witness, my unacknowledged partner, my constant companion. It had watched me make promises I couldn't keep, say words I didn't mean, and choose the easy way out. It didn't judge me. It didn't forgive me. It just waited. My hand slid from the edge of the sink, palms open now. My breathing slowed. I let my shoulders drop, and in that instant, it felt like I was telling my shadow, "All right, I'm here. Show me." And it did. The images came fast now, not one at a time, but in a rush, overlapping, blending, blurring the lines between memory and feeling. The day my father died, the nights I lay awake listening for footsteps that never came, the faces of people I loved and pushed away anyway, the moments I chose pride over connection, the mornings I woke up and couldn't stand to be in my own skin. They all crashed together until it was hard to tell where one ended and the next began. I wasn't in the bathroom anymore. I was in all of them at once. I gripped the sink again, not to hold myself up, but to anchor myself. The shame was sharp, but under it something else was stirring, something softer. It took me a moment to name it. Grief. Not grief for what had been done to me. I'd grieved that plenty. This was grief for what I had done to others. Grief for the time I'd wasted pretending. Grief for the moments I'd missed because I was too busy maintaining a lie. And as the grief rose, so did something else, a strange, quiet relief. Because for the first time, I wasn't running. I looked into the mirror and let the tears come. No rush to wipe them away, no shame in the way they fell. And in that moment, the reflection shifted, not literally, but in the way I saw it. I wasn't looking at an enemy anymore. I was looking at a wounded version of myself who had been waiting for me to notice him. It hit me then clear as day. This shadow wasn't here to destroy me. It was here to be healed. I don't know how long I stood there breathing in that realization, but I do know that something in me had shifted. I couldn't go back to pretending I didn't see it. I couldn't unknow what I knew now. My shadow was part of me, and if I wanted to heal, I couldn't keep cutting myself in half. The bathroom was still quiet, the faucet still running, but everything inside me felt different. I leaned back slightly, my hands resting on the sink, and looked myself in the eyes. And for the first time, I said out loud, "I see you." The words sounded strange in the air, like they belonged in a different language, but the moment they left my mouth, something inside me unclenched. I turned off the faucet. The sudden silence was loud in my ears. I knew this wasn't the end. If anything, it was the beginning. But beginnings are fragile things. They need to be held carefully. So I stayed there just breathing until I felt steady enough to move. As I stepped out of the bathroom, I caught my reflection one last time in the hallway mirror. For a second, I thought I saw the faintest curve of a smile, not joy exactly, but a quiet acknowledgement, like my shadow knew we had work to do. I walked down the hall, feeling the weight of the moment settle in my chest. Not heavy like before, heavy like something worth carrying. And just before I reached the door, I stopped, because I realized something that made my skin prickle. Meeting my shadow wasn't the hardest part. The hardest part was about to come.